Eurotrip Part 2, Chapter 8. Written on Saturday the 6th of September at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything is over now, so this is the last instalment. Sad, sad, sad. I've got quite a bit to catch up on, so it will take ages, but hopefully I'll still keep it interesting. Enjoy. So back to Tuesday evening and the arrival in Barcelona. Stepping out of the station, the first thing we see is Gaudi's house, which just looked really crazy. We got to the hostel and were immediately hit by pumping music, which was not appreciated after our long journey. We were in a queue to check in, which was held up by some horrible 15-year-old English kids asking the receptionist what food every local restaurant served, the difference between patatas bravas and chips, and finally, if they would be able to get tomato ketchup. Everyone stuck behind them were having a good laugh, at least. We got up 1,000 steps to our hostel dorm, which turned out to be the hottest place in the world. There were only 8 beds, but the other 6 contained some annoying foreign girls. We were in there 5 minutes and needed to get out. Just across the road from the hostel was a nice tapas bar where we decided to go for a drink. It was very local, and I got to speak in Spanish for the first time, which was nice. After 2 beers, we went to the hostel bar for one more. After putting off our return to the room as long as possible, we drunkenly went up. A girl was spending her whole life in the bathroom, so I had to walk back down to the bar to use the toilet. Ugh. Wednesday morning, I awoke about 8 a.m. I was desperate for the bathroom but had to wait about 2 hours for one lady who was constantly running between there and her bed. This was not well received after already being woken early by noisy, crisp-eating girls. Eventually they all went and we could use a horrible shower before our day out. I was very eager to get out as was starving and sick of the 91,000 degree room, though just as we were leaving we found the switch for the aircon. We started heading for Gaudi's cathedral, but hunger was turning me into the devil himself, so I demanded we stop at pretty much the first place we came across. Big mistake. Somehow we had wandered into some Asian quarter and this place was like Vietnamese or something. However, there was a sign saying hamburger and a drink for €6.50. Great. Excellent. Dos por favor. She brings out the ugliest looking burger I have ever seen and it tasted fucking rank. Not even the random egg or stale bread could cover the taste. Luckily, was able to follow that with some flavourless chips. Like I said to Josh, if you see me putting salt on food, you know that it tastes like shit. After that horrible experience, it was on to the cathedral. It was pretty impressive and was good to see. Sadly, it was being built in a swamp of tourists and you had to pay to get in, so we left fairly swiftly. Next was a long walk down to Barcelona's Arc de Triomphe, which was fine, though pictures could only be taken from the south. There was a walk through a park, and we were almost at a potentially interesting area of Barcelona. I was walking and looking at my map when I walked straight into some Spanish man. For some reason, my automatic reaction was to punch him in the chest. I apologised profusely, but he was furious and stormed off. Such an experience required a coffee break, though somehow ended up somewhere with a giant mushroom, which was just what I needed. Afterwards, we wandered into Old Town Barcelona, which had cool, narrow streets and Game of Thrones-style churches everywhere. Eventually, Josh got sick of me humming the tune, so we headed to the beach. It was another huge walk around the docks, unaided by segways. The beach was generously smothered in every tourist ever. Somehow we found a spot down by the front where we sat and relaxed for a good few hours. Well, we tried to relax, but peace was disturbed by someone yelling, "Mojitos!" every 2 minutes. There were swarms of these people crossing the beach in waves. One offered Josh a henna tattoo. Josh declined and they assumed he wanted something more hardcore, so instead offered an extensive list of drugs. Harassed and again starving, we left the beach. We did find a burger place straight away, but I had a dream of a nice local place in the back streets of Barcelona, drowning in tapas and dancing the Macarena. It was a stupid dream. We walked for 2 hours through tourist hell after tourist hell. It was actually sickening. So fed up with that shit, we reluctantly sat in the common area of our hostel, completely refused to go back to the room. We decided to go back to the bar from the night before for dinner, so walked across. The place was completely empty. I asked the waiter if we could eat yet, and he said we needed to come back in 20 minutes. This was at 8 p.m. We decided to go and have a drink in the hostel first and then return. Josh asked me to order him some calamari, then changed his mind to chicken wings. I forgot and ordered calamari. He was not pleased. Eventually we went to the bar. It was still empty, but they said it was fine. They started by telling us we had to have the beef. Josh asked about the beef and she said, no, fish. I ordered some chicken, an omelette and hummus with papadum, and Josh ordered a load of other stuff. The waitress seemed concerned, and after speaking to the manager came back to tell us we had ordered muchos courses. She said we were only allowed to order one of each thing and had to share everything. After being told what to eat, we awaited the food. The starter was pretty nice and we demolished it quickly. I was very excited for the barbecue chicken, but it was the biggest disappointment ever. The chicken was like salted popcorn and the sauce like urine. Sad times. The beef was fine and we ordered caprinas to wash it down. We were severely punished for our time and received a bill of €70. Glad I was a little drunk already. We returned to the horrible dorm room to get some sleep. I had a message from Leah saying that she had arrived in Barcelona. We agreed to hang out the next day. Thursday morning, our last full day. We agreed to meet Leah at some station at 11 a.m, so naturally left the hostel about 11:05, not helped by the ridiculous lifts. At the metro station, the machine wouldn't accept my note, so I went to the next machine, but two girls slipped in front and were actually counting a bag of pennies to put in the machine. Eventually met Leah and set off for Montserrat, the monastery in the mountains. We had an hour train ride where a man liked to hang his hat on a random woman. On arrival, we had to get a cable car up into the mountains. It was freaking scary, especially as it almost crashes into a rock at some point. On top of the mountain, we were surprised by the coachloads of tourists. We went up to the church and saw people waiting in a line that looked about 30 minutes long. Had no idea what it was for, but thought it must be good. With no exaggeration, we were in that line for about 2 hours. The line went all around the church and was filled with sad and horrified statues, presumably of people who had died in that queue. Our expectations were steeply rising at what might be at the end, stretching from twerking nuns to Jesus himself. However, not even the man in front's wrinkly elbows could have prepared us for it. At the end was a statue of a Black Mary. People just walked up, touched it, and left. No fucking idea why the line moved so slowly. I got a respectable selfie with it and we ran out of there screaming with joy. After the horrors of the queue and a good lunch, we ran to the opposite side of the mountain. There were some crazy infinity steps that hung over a cliff. As usual, I ran up with excitement, but remembered my fear of heights at the top. Was terrified. You were meant to stand on the top step, but it was way too windy for me to even attempt it. Did not stop the little girl behind me, who clearly does not know death yet. We started on some never-ending stations of the crosswalk, but soon realised that neither of us wanted to walk far, so returned to get the cable car. On the train back, we decided to go for dinner at a tapas place near the beach, right by Leah's apartment. Now this place was really local and fairly priced. The food was excellent and we ordered sangria. Josh and Leah, however, ordered kalos, which was some disgusting pig fat soup, actually vile. Next stop was to a small alcohol shop. We got 2 bottles of wine and the guy opened them for us. Josh told him that he liked his shirt and we had to leave. We sat on the beach and talked politics and USA. The wine quickly ran out and we had to search many supermarkets to find more. We climbed 1,000 steps to Leah's very nice apartment. We drank on her balcony and even managed to get on her roof to dance. Josh passed out on the sofa and Leah assured it was okay for us to stay the night. I stayed in our housemate's bed and had one of the most comfiest sleeps I'd had in a while. A waking Friday morning was wonderful. I was in a great bed and had a view overlooking some Barcelona buildings. Though I was suddenly overcome with that heart-stopping moment of where the fuck am I soon realised and dragged myself out of bed. We stood on Leah's balcony for a while, drinking water and talking Game of Thrones, but we had a flight to catch so needed to go. We said bye to Leah and I advised her to whore herself out. We hopped on a quick metro back to the hostel. Felt a little triumphant strutting back in there with a Catalan newspaper in my hand. Up in the room, the loud girls were being loud whilst everyone was trying to sleep. We were sat there a whole hour and the bathroom was occupied the whole time. The older lady got up and we tried to break into the bathroom together but couldn't. We told the woman at the reception someone had died in our toilet and ran out. Josh shouted about Gaudi's house in a Liverpool accent as we got to the station. We bought tickets to the airport and sat in a cafe. I ordered for Josh a croque monsieur. The woman did not understand, which was awkward because it was the same in her language. We went to the platform and after experiencing a woman dressed as an 80s math book, we were on our way to the airport. Once there, we had an extremely packed bus to the other terminal, a cheap one with EasyJet and McDonald's. Bags checked in and Josh felt up at security. We of course went to McDonald's. Of course, we had vodka ready to add to our drinks. We got to the waiting area for our flight and laughed at the massive line for our plane. Some woman ran at me shouting 8, and I think I sent her in the right direction. We were allowed to move to better seats on the plane so Josh could fart away and murder the woman sat behind. We had more vodka and were towed off as we handed them the empty bottle to dispose of. We arrived in Cardiff and got a bus to the centre, delayed by Obama being escorted to the NATO summit. Then had a long wait and train to Bristol, accompanied by some talkative, annoying men. Finally, we got to a bus that took us to Josh's. Even after being harassed by an Asian girl and having our path blocked by giant suitcases, we made it there. We dropped our stuff and debriefed with his housemates. Josh soon had to go out for a rugby birthday thing whilst I stayed and watched the US office. I went to bed at 10 p.m. and slept for a good 10 hours. It was great. I awoke this morning of Saturday, beautifully refreshed, and here I am now on my Scottish train home. The trip is over and it was an excellent journey. I will miss Slovenia always and need to go back soon. No idea what the next trip will be, but from talking to people I seriously am considering finding a summer job in Europe. Also, East Europe holds a lot of promise. However, it was great practicing my Spanish, so somewhere where I can improve on that would be excellent. Anyways, until then, I'll make sure I get around.